السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. طلبة الصف الأول الثانوي، النهاردة هناخد مع بعض القصة، وهناخد chapter 2 The Treasure Island بتاعت الأول فيلم. أول ما هنبدأ هنقرأ مع بعض. بسم الله. I could see the road from where we were hiding, and soon I saw 8 men. One of them was a blind man. I saw them walk down the road to the Admiral Benbow Inn. They were surprised to see that the door was open. Then all ran inside. I heard someone shout, "Bill's dead! Go and find his box," said the blind man. A little later, a window opened from the captain's bedroom, and a man called out, "Someone has opened the box. Is it there?" said the blind man. "Only the money is there," replied the man. "It's the boy and the woman from the inn," shouted the blind man. "Let's find them." The men started to look around the house. "If you find it, you will all be rich," said the blind man. At this time, we heard horses coming down the road. When the men heard the horses, they started to run in all directions. The horses arrived, so I ran out to see who was riding them. One of them was a boy who went to get Dr. Livesey, and the rest were policemen. 2 men took my mother to the village, where she soon felt better, and the others tried to catch the men, but it was too late. We heard that they escaped on a boat. I returned to the Admiral Benbow with the police. "What did they want?" said Mr. Vance, the head of the police. "I think that they wanted this," I said, showing him the papers that I still had in my jacket. "I'd like to take them to Dr. Livesey." "That's a good idea," said Mr. Vance. "He's a magistrate as well as a doctor. He will know what to do. I'll come with you." We found that Dr. Livesey wasn't at home, but was eating at the house of Mr. Trelawney, an important rich man. Mr. Trelawney asked us into his house. I showed Mr. Trelawney and Dr. Livesey the papers that the captain had in his box. "I think this might be a clue as to where Flint bagged his treasure," said Dr. Livesey. "That's why those men weren't interested in money," agreed Mr. Trelawney. "If you're right, we should take the next boat from Bristol and go and find the treasures ourselves. If Jim here agrees," said the doctor, looking at me, "we should look at these papers now." The doctor looked at the papers. Some of them seemed to describe the ships that the captain and his men had dropped off money. Then we looked at the other papers and saw a map of an island with a big cross on it next to the words, "Most of the treasure here." "Dr. Livesey, we should go to Bristol tomorrow," said Mr. Trelawney. "In a few days we'll find the best ship in England. Jim Hawkins here can come as our ship's boy." "You can be the ship's doctor," I agreed. "I," said the doctor, But those men who try to find the map will now be looking for us. We are not safe anymore. We must not tell anyone else what we know. It took us longer than we thought to be ready to leave England. While Mr. Trelawney prepared for the journey in Bristol, I stayed at Mr. Trelawney's house with his servant Rudrath and spent hours studying the map, thinking about the treasure that we might find. One day, a letter was sent to me from Mr. Trelawney. It said that a good man called Blandley had a ship called the Hispaniola for us. Trelawney said that he had found a crew ready to work on it. The crew included a man called Long John Silver, who had lost a leg but was a good cook. Silver also knew other men who could join us. Trelawney said that everyone was excited by the thought of the treasure. I was surprised by this, as I thought we had to keep the news of the treasures a secret. I was very excited by the thought of the journey, and I went to say goodbye to my mother at the Admiral Benbow Inn. I was very sad to leave her the next day when I traveled to Bristol with Rudrath. We had just one night in the city before we were going to sail. Why were the 8 men surprised when they saw the door of the inn open, as they thought the captain might have escaped? What did the blind man ask the man upstairs? What did the blind man ask the man upstairs? He asked him to go and find the box. What did the man tell the blind man? He told him that Bill was dead and that the box was opened. What did the blind man ask the men to do? He said that it had to be the boy and his mother, so he asked them to find them. What did the 8 men do when they heard the horses coming? They escaped and ran away in all directions to their boat. Who saved Jim and his mother? The boy of the village who ran to ask Dr. Livesey's help. Dr. Livesey called the police and they came as quickly as possible. Who was the head of the police? What was his name? His name was Mr. Dance. What did Mr. Dance suggest when he knew about the papers Jim took from the box? He said it was a good idea to give the papers to Dr. Livesey, as he was a magistrate or a judge as well as a doctor, and he would know what to do. Where was Dr. Livesey when Jim visited him? He was in Mr. Trelawney's house, who was a very rich man. What happened when Jim showed them the papers? Dr. Livesey suggested that the papers must have a clue to where Captain Flint buried his treasure, and that was the reason why the 8 men weren't interested in the money in the box. What did Mr. Trelawney suggest they should do? He suggested that they should take the first boat from Bristol to go and find the treasure. What did the papers consist of? Some of the papers seemed to describe the ships that the captain and his men had dropped off money. Then they looked at the other papers and saw a map of an island with a big cross on it next to the words, "Most of the treasure here." What roles or jobs can Mr. Livesey and Jim play on the ship? Jim can be the ship's boy, and Mr. Livesey or Dr. Livesey can be the ship's captain, the ship's doctor. What did Dr. Livesey ask Mr. Trelawney not to do? He asked him not to tell anyone else about the treasure, or they would be in danger, as the 8 men or the pirates would be looking for them. It's the boy and the woman from the inn. What does the blind man mean by this? He meant that they must be the ones who stole the papers and opened the box. What did Jim do for the next few days, and where did he stay? He stayed in Mr. Trelawney's house with his servant Tredroth, and he spent his time studying the map and thinking about the treasure. What news was the letter that Mr. Trelawney sent to Jim? It said that a good man called Mr. Blangley had a ship called the Hispaniola for him, or for them. Trelawney said that he had found a crew ready to work for it, or on it. Now, who was Long John Silver? He had lost a leg, but he was a good cook. Why was Jim surprised? He was surprised because Mr. Trelawney said the crew was excited by the thought of the treasure, as they agreed to keep this secret, or the news of the treasure, a secret. Where did Jim go before going aboard the ship? Where did Jim go before going aboard the ship? He went to visit and see his mother at the Admiral Benbow Inn before he traveled on the ship. Thank you very much. Goodbye.